Tracy, great having you with me today. Thanks very much for doing this webinar. So Tracy is all the way in South Africa, and I'm in Chicago, United States. So good to have this collaboration where our minds are the same, but our locations are very different. And
Absolutely.
yeah, thanks everybody for joining as well today. We're very much focused. Today's very focused webinar is on user adoption. Hopefully you're thinking about the exact same things that we're thinking about in our mind. How do we get the users to actually use and enjoy and appreciate the applications, the software, the kind of things we're doing, especially in this case when SharePoint Office 365, but as a whole also. So uh, I'm going to let Tracy take it from here, and as it comes up, I'll definitely be interjecting and asking questions or adding information as well. But Tracy, all yours.
Thank you so very much. And yes, what a great honor and a privilege to be part of this webinar as well. We had great chats a while ago at ESPC as well, and it's so wonderful to have people in the industry that shares your passion, but that also shares your concerns. I think that's even more important these days, is to also share the things that we should be aware of and things, and that's why these webinars are great. That's why getting together and sharing with the community out there with how we can do things better and how we can actually change cultures. I think that's something that I focus on quite a lot. So changing cultures, and I think if you look at the next screen that's out there, you'll see that I'm a crazy motorbike riding, crazy pants wearing chick who travels the world, lots of tattoos, and I'm extremely passionate about what I do. And like I said, is changing cultures. So there's just some details as well. There's my Twitter handle and my blog and my website. So write a lot of articles. I'm really out there just to help people and to help us to do the right thing. I think at the end of the day, all of us are trying to help everyone to just be better than they were yesterday. If we can achieve that, then I think we've won the battle. I think that's definitely the way, and the way I approach every day is to just make sure that I'm better than I was yesterday and that I want to achieve more. So this whole user adoption and all these chats we've had, I mean, man, I see if we've had some amazing chats about this, and we definitely align with a lot of these. Now I put through a couple of things that I think would definitely be mind benders. I mean, I want people to think different about things, because if we want to achieve different results, we have to do things differently, and that's something we have to change. If I look at the last 20 to 25 years in technology, we've kept on trying to do the same thing, and we kept on not having the desired results. So I will be covering digital literacy and the impact on user adoption, very close to my heart. I'm going to talk about the evolution of finding stuff, how we deliver IT support, and even training, and how that should change. Then also just a little bit of fun that I'm going to add in there is that users can smell your fear. I had some great feedback on that on a blog I wrote a while back, so I thought I'd add that in and share that with the audience. And then, of course, I just wanted to touch base on something called over-adoption. I'm sure people haven't even started worrying about it, but I'm already worrying about over-adoption, and I'll share with you what I think these things are and how they do affect us. So first up is digital literacy and the impact on adoption. So if I think of a lot of user adoption talks and books out there, everything kind of focuses on the whole, is it intuitive? Is it pretty enough, the software? Are you giving them the right resources and things like that? And I definitely have come to a different idea around how it affects our user adoption. And there's a story that I'd like to share you, and you'll see that there's a girl who's very desperate and she's questioning her life. And I've been a SharePoint trainer for many years. And what happened a couple of years ago is that I realized that every now and then, once a year, I would have the same students in my training. And I didn't quite understand that. So it's a 5-day course, so more what we considered advanced SharePoint building solutions and things. And I would ask them why they're in my training again. Why am I seeing their faces? I mean, I love seeing them, but why are they in my training again? And the people would say that they're there for refresher training. So of course I spent a lot of days writing notes down, questioning myself, wondering if I'm a good trainer. What have I done wrong? What could I do better? And I eventually started doing some research to see around kind of the psychology of how we learn things and the human mind. What sits behind how we learn new things, and what do we struggle with, and how do these concepts work? So I've done a lot of research, and one of the first things that I found, and this is actually a survey that was done between 2011 and 2015. And I'll definitely share a lot of the details with Asif as well to make sure that we share resources, maybe a wrap-up blog or something afterwards, Asif, that we can just share some of the resources with the people afterwards.
Sounds
But
good.
this survey that I came across, they tested 33 countries, okay? So, and 215,000 people were tested. So that 215,000 people were all computer users. Let me just put that out of the way. And the tests that they did, they realized, and after these tests, they saw that about 69%, or let's call it 70%, of the people were PC literate. Now that's a very difficult thing to look at because, I mean, how do we determine what's PC literacy? And that's also something I've spent a couple of years on. But I looked at this and I was so glad that I came across this survey and these results that they published, because I'd feared that for many years. I kept on saying, guys, we have a problem. We're trying to teach people skills, you know, how to use Teams or how to use Planner or how to use Power BI, but they're not quite using their computers right yet, which is a big thing for me. So of course, the kind of a summary on that is that I can promise you is that 70% of our users are not PC literate. And the challenge we have is that people only know what they know. If you ask the users in your company if they're PC literate, they're going to say they're PC literate, because we only know what we know and we only measure it against what we know. So we need to actually step back and say that we need to expose them to a kind of basis course that everyone needs to go through to make sure that all the basics are covered with people. Now, when I came across that statistics, I also saw another some resources and some publications out there, and I came across another resource, and this is Alexander van Deersen. So he's a professor at the University of 20. I'm not quite sure if I pronounced that right, but anyway, they're going to have to forgive me. And he published an article quite a couple of years ago where they did some tests, and they said that with PC literacy training, they can add up to 33 minutes of productive time a day. I'm convinced it's much higher than that, but at last I had resources and I had results that I could base this on. So of course I took these results and I did like this crazy infographic with jelly beans, okay, because I decided that it was too difficult to write a blog and use currency because we're all over the world, you know. I mean, no one understands South African currency, and none of us understands euros and dollars. So I kind of did this infographic that I shared with everyone, and I said, listen, take these results, go look at this. And what I said is I took a company of about 5,000 people and I worked on training them all and saying that 69% gets training. I worked out the cost of the training, and I then came to this crazy figure of 700% ROI. Now, I don't know, USC, if I've been on a lot of IT projects, and normally we work with an ROI of, let's say, about 200 or 250%. I don't know what you've experienced in the market.
That's pretty high, 700%.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
let me tell you what, 700% is unbelievably high. And that was working on averages, man. That's not even like thumb sucking things. I really, really went and I worked it out. And I went like, how do we not invest in our people with training if this is how hard our ROI is? And as we know, people that are trained are happier people. They don't leave companies. They make other people happy. They're more innovative. They're more creative. So it's such a knock-on effect when people are trained and empowered. But still companies aren't doing that. Still companies are seeing it as a cost, which it's not. It's investing in your greatest assets, which is your employees. So I took that same calculation, and this is something that a lot of people can go. So there's the company of 5,000 that I used. And I just said, let's say we could save everyone in the company 5 minutes a day. I mean, I can tell you that it's more than that. And when I say saving, of course, I'm not saying anyone's going home early. But what we're saying is that we're saving productive time. People are more productive. They're getting more things done. So instead of 8 hours, they now get 8 hours and 5 minutes a day of work done. And that's what we mean by productive savings. So I kind of worked it out there, and I went and it was like astounding when you start doing these numbers. And I'm not a number person. I see if that's the problem. I'm not a number and a money person. I don't think of business that way. But you have to, when you speak to management, when you speak at exco levels, you have to speak
Absolutely.
in money. You have to do these things. But it's also a great thing for us to do as trainers, to also look at this and say, hey, look at the value we are adding, because it's also kind of a great thing, hey, because it's not tangible. We always go through it and go, I know it's going to help you people a lot, but prove it, you know, and that's the difficult thing. So this little exercise I did, and that's something like I did like in the last about 2 years, and there it is summed up. If I had to say 5 minutes a day, that on a company of 5,000 people, you can look at productive saving of 1.6 million US dollars. I mean, that's unbelievable
Pretty
amount
big
of money.
number. Absolutely.
That's unbelievable. And if you had to take 33 minutes, and I can promise you, I'll see if we both know this, that with training and with the correct training, I know that I can save 30 plus minutes. I
Oh
can
yeah.
add 30 plus productive minutes to any employee in a company. I know that. I'm seeing the results all the time. So there we go. 10 million US dollars in a year is what you get back in productive minutes if you look at about 33 minutes a day. I mean, that's unbelievable. And the fact that we aren't doing these sums is just crazy. The fact that this should be built into training modules actually
Absolutely.
to just prove this, because it isn't tangible, and I understand that it's very difficult to measure that, but there is stats out there, and I know that how much time we can save. So that's very important for me.
You know,
Now,
and I'm so glad you're
yes,
starting with this thing. As we talked about before, also executive sponsorship is so important. And that's
yes.
where executives, their eyes open and they start paying attention when you talk about these numbers. So I'm so glad you're doing
This is the language they speak. I see. We know
absolutely.
this, so it
Absolutely.
doesn't help that I tell them that I'm going to make the employees happy, or everyone's going to be smiling, or that's not the thing that matters at a certain level. You've got to come down with the numbers. But the nice thing is that when you're forced to do the numbers, you're forced to motivate and defend your statement, if that makes sense. I mean, does that make sense to you? To
Absolutely.
say that when I'm doing these numbers, I can now prove and I can now state with confidence that this is the benefit that I add in company. So it's definitely by far one of the best things I could ever have done. I've
Great.
written lots of blogs about this, and I've got Excel spreadsheets in there that the guys can do these calculations in their companies. But it is unbelievable productivity savings. We just never measure it. It's one of those things that never gets measured. So definitely very close to my heart. And you're right, that's Exco speak and management and senior management speak right there. These are the things that makes companies sign off training. And I can promise you, once they've signed off training, they'll be happy because they'll see the results. But it's about getting that initial buy-in. That's always tricky, when the relationship's not there yet. If it's the first time you engage with a new employer
Mm-hmm.
or a new company, then it's very difficult to get them to trust this idea that you have. But if you can prove it by numbers, it's definitely a good place to start from, for sure. So these crazy like research that I did around the ROI of training, if I can put it this way, then made me think different about the way that we launch products into companies. Because as you know, in the past, we we would send an email out and say, "Hey guys, from Monday we're on SharePoint," and it's just crazy. And here's a link to go watch a video on YouTube. I mean, I don't know how they thought that was going to work, but it didn't work. We know that. So things used to be launched the other way around. We used to launch products into companies and then sit back and wait and see what are they going to do with it, because we're not quite sure what's going to happen yet. So based on these results and based on the PC literacy and all of that, I then developed a model. Now, this 8 pillars of digital literacy that you're looking at right there. I didn't design the 8 pillars of digital literacy. You get a lot of them out there. You get the 7 C's of this and the 8 that of that. But I kind of like this specific one. So I drew the picture, but I came across these 8 pillars of digital literacy. Because you will not believe it, when I looked at that, I immediately recognized the Office 365 apps and services in it. Every single little thing in that 8 pillars of digital literacy reminded me of how Microsoft is helping us to not only support that pillar of digital literacy, but also to help to create a culture where that grows and where people can grow those skills. So when I then said that we have a problem with PC literacy, I said I better branch this out a bit, because it's not just PC literacy, it's digital literacy. And these are the core areas that I focus on. So I said that if I then go into a company and I launch a product, I don't launch Office 365, I launch digital literacy. I go into companies and I say, hey guys, we've decided that in 2019, we want to invest back in our greatest assets. We want to make sure that all our employees are digital citizens, We're going to issue them with a digital passport, So every time you take one of these training courses, you're going to get stamped. And we want to invest back in you to make sure that you have the soft skills and the digital skills to survive in this crazy world of ours. Because things, I mean, as you know, smartphones, televisions, I mean, everything's just gone crazy. The fact that we don't invest in people is just is actually a big risk. So these 8 pillars, and I have broken them down in a lot of articles that I've written, but these 8 pillars are fully supported by Office 365, but also, if you don't start working on these, it also affects the adoption of Office 365, because if those skills are very lacking, then it's very difficult for people to understand what the need is. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if I have to go into a company and I have to say, like, listen, let's say this week is e-safety awareness campaign week. So I've got posters up everywhere. And e-safety, we can say, is about these couple of things, okay? But like web browsers, how to use a web browser safely. Let's say to talk about how our computers, we're supposed to lock them. Don't wait for the policy that locks it after 5 minutes, but lock your machine when you walk away from it. If I think of how OneDrive helps with e-safety, just think of how we can actually very safely and securely share content with people, either via email address specific. We can even say that the links expire after a certain couple of days or things like that, which is incredible. So when you start sharing these awareness type of things with people, critical thinking and evaluation, the fact that we can make better decisions if we base it on correct data, and you then start showing them how amazing Excel has become and all the reports you can do in Excel, like 3D maps and all of those
Mm-hmm.
insights, amazing
Yeah.
stuff. Then when you follow up that awareness and you come back and say, hey guys, we want to give you an overview of how OneDrive works, then you've already created the need. So the person already knows that that they want to share documents safely. You know, they understand why there's passwords on certain things or why there's expiration dates. If you then follow with the product, they understand it better. But creating the need first makes people understand why Office 365 helps them. So it's not the other way around. And that's something I'm quite passionate about, is to step
Yeah.
into companies with the right foot in the door and to not just do it with product. Because I
It's
think we've
so
hurt them too
true.
much in the past.
Yeah. I was sorry. I was just going to say that, when you create that awareness, people realize what's in it for me. And that what's in it for me is
Absolutely.
so important. Once they have that, then they're much more open to the education, the training, and the other things that you want to offer. But before that, they're very hesitant, very resistant to the idea.
Absolutely. I think and I mean, listen, I've got to be careful when I say these things, but I am known as a very disruptive, aggressively passionate trainer. So you know what? People are mad at me. I don't care. But we have for too many years lied to our employees. We would go to them and say, we're launching SharePoint because it's going to make your life so much easier. And it doesn't. It made their lives more difficult. It slowed
Hmm.
them down. You
Agree.
know, it was more difficult to do things. So for years, we've been lying to them and not delivering what we were supposed to promise. And we never really made it about them. Never, ever really made it about them. And if you look at like digital literacy and PC literacy, this means we can make it about them. We can make them more aware to be better workers and be more efficient and more effective, but also to be happy. Because you know what? This idea of where some people are IT and some people aren't is nonsense. We're all supposed to be very happy on our computers. We're all supposed to be very, very comfortable and fast and be able to multitask well and use shortcuts and navigate. But a lot of people struggle because they think it's just the way it is, and that's nonsense. It's definitely not like that. We need to reach out to people and help them realize that it's in the scope for everyone to be amazing and for everyone to be happy in their jobs. There's no such thing as this is who I am and this is my job. We're supposed to be happy and we're supposed to not struggle with IT. And I definitely won't have that anymore, Nasib. Definitely not. We want to make everyone happy, and I
I'm
think
with you. It should be an
that's an important.
enabler. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's a big drive for me. So that brings me to the second topic, and this also I've done quite some research on this. Once I realized that we had this literacy problem, and we had to adjust our training a bit, I then said that the only way that a person can understand new technology is if we take a step back and look at how things happened in the past. We have to understand the way we did things before so that we can map out how we do things in the future. So you kind of have to look back first and say, how did we do it before? And I think that that creates empathy as well. And there's not a lot of empathy in our worlds. There's not a lot of empathy in IT and in training and change management. And I think we need to put that back, is to understand where people have come from and why it is that they're struggling with things. So the example that I use, and this is kind of my illustration of the evolution of finding stuff, and I broke it up into 4 areas. I said that that the most important thing that all of us deals with on a daily basis is data. I mean, data has a higher street value than gold or oil. I mean, people just don't understand how valuable data is. So I said that we all work with the same thing that's very valuable, and that's data. So if I could impact how people work with data, I could have a bigger impact, right? So if I could help people to find things faster, to create things faster, to share things faster, to protect things faster, then I'm going to reach a bigger audience. I mean, that's the big thing for me. So I then went and did some research, and I said, okay, so where do we come from? Okay, how is it that people are still working with data, and where are we going, and how do we have to fix that? So for me, an example of seeing, and this is an example that I always use, as if it also always gets my students as well, and even in presentations to laugh quite a bit. But I'll use the example of someone going camping. So let's say me and you go camping, Asif. So well, you can make up a car if you want. You want to tell me what car we're going to go camping in?
A Jaguar.
A Jaguar. Perfect example. I think that is a perfect example to go camping in. It's got no roof rack, people, so understand there's no roof rack. So I'm in the house busy packing. We're a lot of friends going camping, and Asifa's outside. He's busy packing the Jaguar. Okay, so I come outside, and he's packed nothing in the car's trunk. So we call it a car's boot, okay, which is always confusing. But he's put nothing in the car's trunk, or the boot. And he's putting everything on the Jaguar's roof. I mean, there isn't a roof rack. I'm like, Asif, what is this? What are you doing, dude? And he's like, no, Trace, we're going to put it on the roof. And I'm like, but why are you doing this? And he says, because if I have to scratch for stuff in the boot, it just irritates me, in the trunk. I've got to move things around to see where other things are, and it's behind them, and just irritates me. I'm going to put everything on the roof, and then when I can, if I can see it, I can find it. And I'm saying, but I see if that's going to fall off, right? And he says to me, I'm going to use duct tape, Tracy. We're going to duct tape that stuff down. It's not going to fall off the roof. We're going to be fine. So while I'm driving, I can stick my hand out, and there's my favorite toothbrush, and there's my favorite jacket or something. So then people always laugh in the audience, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's real stupid, isn't it? That's real stupid of a Steve to go and put everything on his car's roof. And then I'll ask people how many people still save stuff to their desktops. And the audience will go quiet, because that's exactly the same thing. We save things on our desktops because we're too scared to lose it, Asif. I mean, we don't want to put it in our documents, or, I mean, that's even before OneDrive, right? Because we have to go and look for it. So if we put everything on our desktops, we know that if we can see it, we can find it. So for me, seeing is the lowest form of the evolution of finding stuff, okay? Is putting stuff in your desktop. So then the second example would be as navigating to stuff. So navigating to stuff is double clicking through folders, like through nested folders, okay? Or clicking the start button and then going my computer and then going control panel and then looking for the printers or something on your PC. Or clicking the start button and going, I can't even remember what it was anymore. Was it program files and then go Excel or something? So that's navigating to stuff. And that's how most of the people still work with things. They still navigate to stuff. They still click to go through to other things. Now, if I think the next step, so navigating to stuff is slow because we just don't know where things are anymore. I mean, how are you supposed to keep on remembering how you navigate to stuff? If I think of folders, if someone adds a new folder or someone renames a folder or they move a folder, then everyone can't find their content because we get used to this neurological path our brain is built to content. But that's physically walking a path to it. Now, we don't have to walk a physical path to documents anymore, but users don't know this. So the third level of the evolution of finding stuff is search. So the first thing I always show people is how to use the Windows button on their computers. So and that's the one on the keyboard, people, just for interest sake, not the one on your screen. So the Windows button on my keyboard, if I press that, I can search for Excel, I can search for documents, I can search for settings, my printers, everything. And I can trust my computer to find everything that I know. I no longer know where it is. I mean, why do I have to remember physically where things are if my computer remembers where it is? So using the Windows button, but also, for example, in Chrome, is using the plus and the minus to filter your search better, to promote and demote part of your search. We've never showed our users that. I mean, how is that even possible? But then we expect them to click through to results. If I think of the display templates in SharePoint, when SharePoint Online, good grief, there was a lot of drama about them changing the search display templates, and suddenly there wasn't all these buttons they used to click. And I can't no longer click on a button that says PDFs. And I'm like, but why would you want to do that? Why don't you just type space plus PDF, Why aren't we teaching people to get to things faster? We're still teaching people to navigate things. So Discover, of course, for me is kind of an example of discovery, is how data gets pushed at us without us even asking it. And I mean, you would know this. If I'm talking about Delve and Office Graph and the WhoBot, like things that these are people you might be interested in. These are things you might like. If I think of how Google works, how Google Maps works. I mean, how I will drive past the mall and I'll get a message that says, hey, Trace, I see you in the area. Come and have a Starbucks. I mean, that's crazy stuff, okay? Or you'll get an email when you get back to the hotel and I've been offline for hours. I don't have data. And I get an email that says, please rate our service. That's discovery. I mean, that's unbelievable. But the problem is, Asif, is that our users are stuck between see and navigate. And no matter what whoever says, you can make Teams as purple as you want to, or plan it as green as you want to, and as pretty as you want to. people won't use it better if we haven't taken them through those logical steps of maturity of finding stuff. We have to teach them to search.
I still,
To
yeah, that's true. And just to add to that, discover is even the best. I think that's what you're saying here as well, that if they can discover things automatically, know the question that they need to ask, and here's what's important to you
Absolutely.
in this context, that's even more important than searching for it. Just
Absolutely. But for
exposing it to
me,
them.
I kind of feel that you kind of have to crawl before you can walk,
Agree,
before you can
agree.
run. And I've seen a lot of problems with people being dragged into the running stage because there wasn't the logical sense of how do I find things. They don't understand how search works, you know? So if you can't search, discovery is not going to work for you. You won't just adopt discovery. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that we have to teach them these basic skills as well so that they can adopt discovery, so that they can stand back and understand and trust the search results. Because people navigate to things because they don't trust search results. You know that.
Oh yeah, I do. I say it all the time.
So if we can teach them to trust themselves and the results and the technology, then we can keep on evolving, and they'll keep on evolving with it. So I think that's important. So then on that, just an important note as well, and that's looking at things like what they call intuitive design. So people will say to me that training is going to become obsolete. We don't have to train anymore. You know, if Microsoft would only learn from Apple and design intuitively designed software. I mean, I normally burst a little vein in my head when they say that. So I'll offer them an example. I'll say, okay, so why do you say this? I mean, where does this come from? And people will say to me, you know, but Trace, I've got a 2-year-old and she can use my iPad. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm really proud of your 2-year-old. But the difference between your 2-year-old and me is that I have 28 years of experience with Microsoft OSs,
Yeah.
different versions. I've worked on DOS, I've worked on Lotus Notes, I've worked on Lotus 123, I've worked before there was Windows, when we used to close programs to open other programs. I mean, some people don't even know that ever existed. So the more, and I call it muscle memory we have with systems, the more muscle memory we have with systems and different versions, the harder it is for us to learn a new habit. It's just a fact. So the younger you are, the less you've worked with anything, the easier it is to just press a button. If that doesn't work, click the next button. If that works, you sort it. Our brains just doesn't work like that. I'll click and go, I don't understand this. It should be a drop-down menu. Where's the drop-down menu? And then suddenly there's a ribbon, you know, and then 10 years later, there's a drop-down menu again. I mean, you understand this. So the more muscle memory we have with other systems, the harder it is for us to learn skills. So please stop this whole millennial versus older people discussions in the industry, because let me tell you what, 20 years ago, I was the millennial. Okay, maybe not. Maybe a little bit more. 25 years ago, I was the millennial. Okay, I was that person who learned everything so fast. I was that one who just grabbed new stuff, made it work, just ran with it. The older I got, the more systems I used, the more experience I had, the more business experience I had, the more my brain resisted towards learning just a new path. It still wanted to continue taking that old path. So please be careful of that. People that has more experience with systems will take a little bit longer to learn, but we come with a lot of business experience, which is very valuable. So please understand the difference between those. We have to unlearn old bad habits before we can learn new habits. It's not as easy as just, no, that's how it works now. That's where resistance comes from, is the more experience we have. And I don't know what your opinion is on that, Pasif, but
I
that's
very much
definitely.
agree. I very much agree about the example, like you mentioned about iPad, just picking it up and be able to do it
Yeah,
because you don't have the other experiences. It's easier to learn that because there's no resistance.
absolutely. There's nothing that's telling that little 2-year-old that there should be a drop-down menu or that it should sit on the right-hand side of the screen. There's no memory of that. So then it's so easy to just assume that it'll work, and if that doesn't work, you try again. You know. So I think we just have to have empathy for that. I don't think we always have enough empathy for how people learn, and like I said again, the success of our future is based on where we come from. And I think we kind of skip that. We have to understand where people come from to have empathy and to adjust methods of dealing with new technology.
I'm so glad you're mentioning that. It's very, very true that we have to understand before being understood of what we
Yeah,
want them to learn. You know, what is their feeling? What are they feeling? What's the frustration? Understand the pain point before pushing
absolutely.
something on them, because that will never go well otherwise.
No, absolutely. This next example, and I'm a storyteller. Okay, I'm someone who uses examples and tells story and things that happen to me and stuff. And this specific one, when I talk about IT support, I always use in my sessions. And the example I use is, and again, I'm gonna use Asif as an example because I can pick on him today.
No problem.
I have an audience that has to listen to me. So for this example, I'm IT help desk, okay? And Asif is from HR. He's in the HR department, and he phones the IT help desk, and I pick up, of course, okay? So I'm like, hi there, it's Tracy. It's the IT help desk. How can I help you? And he goes, hi, it's Asif from HR. And I immediately mute the phone call. I mean, I'm just so sick and tired of this oak phoning me. He's phoned me like 3 times this week already with the craziest stuff. I cannot believe that he still has a computer, right? I just can't believe this. And while I've put him on hold, I'm already on LinkedIn looking for another job. I'm so over this IT support job. I just can't deal with this, Steve. That's why IT people drink more than the average people. I mean, we just can't deal with this. I mean, you phoned me like 10 times this week already. I mean, who can sleep at night with nonsense like that? Okay. So anyway, eventually I get the courage up. Asif is on hold. Okay, the music's playing. He doesn't know what's going on. So eventually I take him off hold and I go in my best, nicest voice. I go, Asif, so nice to hear of you again. How do I help you today? And he says to me, I haven't been able to work for days. So that's something that end users though do. And I pick on everyone, by the way. I'm very fair. We're all wrong at what we do. End users wait days before they log calls. And by the time they log the call, they've complained about it for days already. And their boss thinks IT is stupid as well. And that's not fair, people. Log calls immediately and log them via the correct procedure. Stop phoning that poor IT oak on his cell phone because you have his number. That's not the right way to log calls. There's KPIs and there's reporting happening in the background. So anyway, so Steve says he hasn't been able to work for days. So I'm like, I don't know what he's done. I'm like, okay, just try and explain to me. I have no idea what you've done, Asif. What's the problem? And he says someone deleted my Excel. Because that's another thing end users do, is they think that IT has got this shift that runs every Wednesday night at 12 o'clock that logs into everyone's machines and deletes stuff. I mean, am I right if I say this, Asif? Where does this come from,
I'm trying
people?
to hold my
Believe
laugh
me,
back.
believe me, end users out there, you are more than powerful enough to break your own things. More than powerful enough to break your own things. Now, I immediately kind of know what Asif's done wrong. Okay, I've got to be very careful with Office 365 because updates gets pushed down regularly and Windows updates. Things do go a little bit strange and crazy in the night. So normally, I would say to Asif, I know what you did wrong. Let me help you. And you know what, people? Be careful of what you say to people because that breaks down self-esteem. So I would rather say to him, I see if I suspect I know what's happened. Let's see if we can fix it. So normally I would remote into his machine. I would put the shortcut back on his desktop because he's done one of 4 things, people. He's either deleted the Excel shortcut on his desktop, or he's dragged it into one of the many folders that's there and he can't find it anymore. Or he's clicked and dragged the little scroll wheel and now the icons are so small he can't see it anymore. Or he's right-clicked and sorted the icons and now it's not alphabetical anymore. It's in a different order. Can't find it, okay? Happens every day to millions of people. So if I go and I remote into his machine and he sits back and he watches me putting the shortcut back on his machine and he goes, gee whiz, that's why Tracy gets the big bucks. That girl's so clever. But do you really think that I helped Asif? I mean, Asif, what do you think? Do you think I helped you?
I think you showed empathy. You showed that you cared, and because of that,
I showed empathy when I said they got to be careful with how they speak to people. But the fact that I just put it back on your desktop, so that's the thing. Is IT support for years has been to fix problems, right?
yeah,
So I did exactly what my KPIs said I must do. My job description says fix the problem. Find out what the problem is, fix the problem. That's it, 100%. I can
that's
get
it.
my bonus end of the year. I didn't help that problem not to happen again because you're going to phone me again tomorrow, Asif, when your PowerPoint
Oh
icons
yeah,
come. You know
absolutely.
that. So I should have said to Asif, just press the Windows button for me. No, sweetie, not the one on your screen, the one on your keyboard. And Asif's going to say, what Windows button on my keyboard? And I'm like, look there, at the bottom, next to Control. And he's going to say, that's cool. I thought that was just the extra button and they put a logo on it. I'm like, no, Masti. Nope, that's not. I'm going to say, press the button, don't do anything else, type Excel for me. Don't do anything else, don't go to the mouse, press enter for me. Did Excel open? Yes. Then I'm like, don't use shortcuts anymore, Asif, because it slows you down. And you know what's funny, people? Asif's going to ask me, man, Trace, that's amazing. Why has never anyone showed me this? Did that Windows button come out with Windows 8? And I'm like, no, sweetie. 1992, 26 years ago, the Windows button came out. Okay, so let's just think about that for a moment. But you know what, Asif? We've never helped our people with those things. These are the basic, simple things. We've just never, ever helped our people. So IT support needs to change into people that helps people fix themselves. So that's a bit of a difference. So also going forward, and kind of like going towards the end of all these cool things that I want to try and share with you, is how do we create lifelong or self-learners? How do we get users to start helping themselves? Because as you know, the updates that are rolling out is too much. I can train everyone on Microsoft Teams today in a company. Tomorrow it's outdated. Am I right? You can't
Absolutely.
do that.
Yeah.
You can't, you've got to actually teach people just to teach themselves. That's actually what we have to do. Teach people to help themselves. That's exactly what we have to do, because you can't spoon feed anymore, because the technology changes so often. We just honestly cannot do it anymore. So I think something that's very valuable is looking at what's going on in Microsoft. And in Microsoft, please take note of the in-app help that's already available. If you just look at Excel, there's a help tab already that shows support, contact support, feedback, show training videos, the community, what's new and what's been released, the blog site, suggest a feature. If you look at Teams, of course, the T-Bot's gone. I really miss him. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why the T-Bot's gone, but he's gone. But if you go to the command box at the top in Microsoft Teams and you type /help, you'll get all the help files, the videos, what's new in Teams as well. So please take note of the innate help that's in the apps that you use already, that's already there. Just take a look around, somewhere, first cup of coffee in the morning before you jump into your emails, just take 10 minutes and scroll through the ribbon, because a lot of things gets added quite often, and you might be missing some cool things that's been added. So that's definitely a cool thing, is to look at the in-app help that's available in a lot of the Microsoft products. And then, of course, as well, just what do they call it, a personal punt there. But I mean, I've, I don't know, 1,000 blogs or something stupid. It's all free. You can go to any of my blogs. I don't mind if you copy and paste it. I don't mind if you download my videos. There's lots and lots and lots of blogs out there to just help the guys, obviously, and to achieve more. And there's a lot of us in the community that's also out there to help people. Of course, on Twitter. I mean, Twitter is definitely a much older thing, because when I ask much younger people, they're like, what do you mean Twitter? Everyone's on Instagram these days.
Yeah.
But I can promise you that when it comes to technology, Twitter is the place I learn most. I don't know about you, Asif. What is your kind of like feeling
Yeah.
about where you get your stuff from?
Definitely, in terms of information and links to the right information, Twitter and LinkedIn are my favorites in terms of
Okay.
social. Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm not that strong on LinkedIn. LinkedIn tends to be longer articles for me, and I don't think I have the attention span for that. So for me, Twitter, following the groups on Twitter, and very, very quickly, if you start, because people always ask me, Trace, who should we follow? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you to follow, because I'm going to forget to like mention someone, and then I'm in trouble, right? So just
That's
go
true.
follow the product groups, okay? Go follow the product groups. And I promise you, if you follow the product groups, within a week, you'll come across the second level of people that you should be following.
That's
Because
true.
all the people that are strong in the community, you know that, Asif,
Oh yeah.
we pick each other up based on the product groups that we interact with. So as
Very
soon as you
true.
follow the product groups, but don't forget Facebook, people. The support on the Facebook groups for the different products. I mean, even just the big ones for me is like Teams and SharePoint that I'm on. Whenever I have an issue with something, and because South Africa is on the other side of the world, okay, I always have issues in the middle of the night, okay, so no one's here that can help me. But then there's always someone else in the world that can help me, because they're awake and they're working. So a lot of times I've posted things on Facebook as well as on Twitter and said, guys, I'm getting an error. I'm not sure if it's me. Maybe there was an update. And I promise you, it's just unbelievable. Within minutes, people across the world will come back to me and say, Trace, don't you want to try this? Or, you know what, here's a link to a article or a user voice that's been logged, because there's an issue. And I'm pretty sure that you experience exactly the same. But
Absolutely.
the support you get on these things is unbelievable. The era is where everything is available, people. There is no more excuses. There is absolutely no more excuses to say that you didn't know but that's why we're doing this, just to kind of like make you more aware of things, because you might not know of these accounts. You might not know Twitter is a great place to go and actually find resources and to find the articles. And all the Microsoft product groups, they blog and share on Twitter and on Facebook and of course on LinkedIn as well. The latest updates that's come out and cool things, and we talk about it with each other and we share it. So definitely a lot of cool stuff that happens in those environments. And then, of course, as well, I didn't put the links in there, but you can just go and look for it. I monitor what's new in Office 365 very, very closely. It gives you, and this is more focused on Microsoft Office, of course, it gives you exactly what was released in the last month. Some of them's got little blogs or videos. That's Excel, PowerPoint, I don't know, Access, all of those type of things, Word, Outlook, everything. And I think it even has, I can't remember now, but I'm sure it has Windows stuff as well. Got to just remember. the Windows on the training, actually, the training center has got some other Windows stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so what's new in Office 365, very important for me, is to share that with my clients and with my students as well, to show them the cool new things that got released in Microsoft Office. Then the Office 365 roadmap, that's been kind of revamped to the Microsoft 365 roadmap. So that shows you anything in development, anything that's coming new, anything that's been launched recently. So that also kind of just brings your attention to what's happening. I think that's very, very important for administrators specifically and product specialists. I'm not saying all users should follow that, but definitely your product specialists and your administrators. Then the Microsoft tech community, of course, we all belong to it. I mean, they've got I think it's over 100,000 already. I know they celebrated 80,000 at the conference a while back, and I'm pretty sure they're way past that already. But in the tech community, you have MVPs, you have Microsoft staff, and you have other community leaders. And there's a lot of people helping each other, asking questions, being answered. So the tech community is a great place to go and follow the specific groups that you're interested in as well for news and updates. And then, of course, Office 365 Training Center. I know that they're busy launching that. Do you know what it's called? Is it Learning Services or something, Asif? The one that they're going to launch soon?
I believe it's Learning Center, but I'm not 100% sure.
Something like that, hey.
Yeah.
So I know that I signed up for a preview of it or something. So I'm waiting for that. But definitely keep your eye out as well for some learning center or something that might be launched soon. And then, of course, please, Microsoft User Voice. Don't be someone who complains about things and doesn't log a ticket. You must understand that we have control over what Microsoft is developing. The things that we see in Office, and I'm sure you can actually confirm this as well. There's things that I see that's being launched in Office 365 and Microsoft Office that myself or friends of mine or in the community has actually asked to be put there. I mean, that's unbelievable. The fact that we have a say and we can say, Microsoft, I think this would be a great button to have, and it could do this and this. And if enough people voted for it, Microsoft considers developing it, and that's unbelievable. So be part of the solution, people. Don't be part of the problem. You know, go log tickets on User Voice. Go and see if other people have logged tickets for feature requests, and vote for it. Because the more people vote for it, the bigger the chances is that they get developed, or the more serious it moves up on the food chain, if I can put it that. And then, of course, community. I mean, I've spoken about that a couple of times now. As community is unbelievably important for me. That word that you see up there is an African word. It's one of the African languages, Ubuntu. And Ubuntu, so that's not the Linux, by the way. Let me just get that out of the way. But Ubuntu means that I am who I am because of who we all are. And don't ever forget that, is that we are part of something much greater and much bigger. So it's very important that you remember the community. The community in Microsoft is unbelievably strong. They're my best friends and they're my family. So I would never be able to do without them. Now, based on those, after those resources that I've given you, I want you to build a pyramid scheme of mentorship in your company. So get those product specialist who stays up to date, and they then pass it on a forum or weekly report to a set group of users, and they pass it on again to the power users, and they pass it on again to the end users. And you could have a monthly wrap-up newsletter, but you have to get that kind of chain letter going to make sure that keeps on going through in the company, and that the message keeps on being delivered in the company. I think that's very, very important. And then just a little bit of fun around users can smell your fear. If you're thinking of bringing in Office 365 in your company, so the first scenario I want to share with you is if you've made the decision to go Office 365 and someone asks you, why are you doing this? And you say to save money, then I want to tell you, don't speak to end users. Don't even speak to me. If you say you're doing this to save money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, people. Saving money is a benefit we have from going to cloud. The reason we're doing it is to make people more efficient, to find things better anyway, any place, anytime, any device. Saving money is a benefit. So if you then think, typically in this scenario, how would they launch that? There would be no upfront communication with users. On the day of the launch, the users gets an email with a URL to office.com, of course, and the Office 365 Training Center, if they thought of it. And then maybe a mail to a Microsoft video clip showing them what Office 365 is in a nutshell. Okay, and now they tell the people, well, now you're on Office 365, enjoy. And then IT sits back, thinking their job's done, waiting for the masses to adopt Office 365 and sing their praises for making such a clever decision. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of friends being mad at me for saying that. And then IT waits, and they wait, and there's no user adoption. And management wants to know why the consumption is so low. So the difference between these, if I take the next scenario, what is the good scenario? So in this scenario, company X has decided to move to the cloud. And of course, they decided on Office 365. When asked why moving to Office 365, the answer is to empower users. And this is what could happen typically. Maybe 8 weeks before it, you can start a digital literacy campaign. So that things I showed you earlier on in the webinar. So maybe start focusing on those 8 pillars and say, hey guys, we want to help you get your skills up on e-safety and creativity and blah, blah, blah. So you have one of those each week. Communicate to the users that the company is embarked on a journey to invest back in their most valuable assets, which is their users. Explain in the new digital world, we need to be equipped to not only be efficient, but also digitally safe. It's important that each user becomes a digital citizen, and the only way to achieve that is through training and awareness campaigns, of course. And then over an 8-week period, communicate the 8 pillars of digital literacy, one each week, what they are and why they're important, posters, flyers, emails, newsletters from the intranet, etc. And then during the first couple of weeks, just before and after the switch, start running product-specific training linked to the literacy pillar. For example, collaboration training, which would be how to use Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint to collaborate and communicate better, or how to contribute on a cultural and socially understanding level. If I think creativity and curation of content, how to use Stream, Sway, Forms, PowerPoint, SharePoint, News to be more creative, or critical thinking and evaluation is how do we use Excel and Flow and Power Apps and Power BI to evaluate data and make better decisions. So you're getting the idea now, right? We're doing this the other way around. We're not launching a product. We're launching an initiative to make people better than they were yesterday. So give them a digital passport notebook that gets stamped every time they attend one of these cool sessions. And that addresses one of the skills. And this is change management, by the way, people. This is a 2-in-1 approach where it's not just this or that. This is change management and culture change and training and awareness all in one. And it also helps you launch your product. So I think those are very, very important for me. And then to kind of get to the end of this, very important is that over-adoption is a thing. I don't know what you think about this, Asif, but it definitely is.
I agree.
So
it's like
people would say,
doing
yeah?
adoption things for the sake of adoption. Like, what are you doing? There's just too much.
Yeah, I think I don't think you know what I mean by that, Asif, and that makes it even more interesting.
Okay.
So what I mean with over-adoption is that when companies launch products into companies without the correct guidelines or governance, and people start using the product in ways that they shouldn't use the product,
yeah,
that's
the different
over-adoption.
way.
But
I
a
was
good
thinking
call
about
because
the
that
activity.
opens up discussion.
Okay.
So if we have to think of examples of over-adoption, people go and look at how many folders you have in your Outlook. That's over-adoption right there. That's starting to abuse a product to do things that it's not supposed to be doing. If I think of nested folders and file shares, click, 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 another folder, click, 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 click. People don't even realize why when they make backups to an external hard drive, the computer tells them that it can't back up a folder or a file because the path is too long. They don't even get that limit where it cuts off, because no one's ever told them. If I think of bad naming conventions, we never ever taught them good naming conventions, which is why they built gazillions of folders. Subsites in SharePoint is another example of over-adoption. Again, we didn't teach people how they could filter data and use views and use metadata. They didn't have to build subsites on subsites on subsites to get separate views of content. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Again, not enough governance and guidelines was in place. And then let's just talk about teams, people. We're going to end up with too many teams and too many channels, which means we're going to end up with over-adoption, and people are going to start hating teams like they're hating Outlook right now. So now you get where I'm coming from with this over-adoption thing, right?
I do.
If people aren't informed, they can't make good decisions, Asif. I mean, that's the problem that we have, right? But anyway, I'm kind of ready to just give you my takeaways, and if there's any questions on your side, of course we can take a look through that. But I think this is very important for me, people, is you have to remember that you've already forgotten what they still need to learn. That's a very hard thing as a trainer as well to remember, is that people have no idea what's in your head. They have no idea what you've gone through and what you've learned already. So you have to remember, we have to pass on all those skills, even if we've forgotten some of them already. So that's important. Please have empathy, understand where they come from, understand their past, which is why they make the decisions they make or the mistakes that they make. And then support and training should change. So I definitely want us to focus on that a bit so we can start helping people to help themselves. We shouldn't be spoon feeding anymore. We should change cultures where people can start helping themselves. And then stay up to date, know your product shortcomings and advantages, and communicate. So that whole users can smell your fear thing. What I mean by that is that if you don't know your product well enough, people, and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, users will know. If you're not doing it for their sake, if you're not doing it to invest in them, and if you honestly don't know the product well enough to answer their questions, I can promise you they're going to see through you. And that's what I meant with users can smell your fears. So stay up to date, know your product, understand the shortcomings and advantages, and please communicate both. Don't just communicate successes. You have to communicate failures as well. When something goes wrong, tell people, hey, Oaks, sorry, man, that's this has happened, or whatever. But communicate both ways, failures and successes. And then you are not alone. It's going to be okay, I promise. And that's a community thing. That's just reaching out to people and saying, I promise you, there's a big bunch of people out there who's very passionate about this and who really, really wants to help people. And that kind of wraps me up. And just a personal note to wrap up on my side, Asif, is this. I really believe that if we invest back in people and their self-esteem, we can help people be better at what they are already and better than what they were yesterday. And Ikigai is something I really believe in. That's purpose of being, right? And the interesting thing is that I meet a lot of people that go through life and I think they don't have balance because they have this work-life balance thing. I have no idea what that means. I have fun everywhere. I get upset everywhere. I have balance everywhere, okay? I love my job. I love my personal life. That's balance. But for many, many years, I thought I didn't have balance because I wasn't prepared to give myself credit that I was good at what I did. So if you look at this kind of approach, if you do what you love and you do what the world needs and you get paid for it and you do what you're good at. So for this thing, I want everyone to take a step back and just pat yourselves on the back and say, you know what, sweetie, you're okay. You've worked hard. You've learned a lot of lessons and you're not bad. So stop putting yourselves down. We all work hard and we all make mistakes and we're all human, but give yourself credit where due. And then that is really a message I want to share with anyone who listens to this or joins the webinar is please give yourself credit where due and understand what balance is, because that's reaching these type of things. Doing the right things for the right reasons is unbelievably important for me. And that is a wrap from my side, Asif. Any other questions or things from your side?
Oh wow, there's just a lot of information you've shared, Trace.
It
Thanks
is.
so much, and I definitely learned quite a bit as well.
That's
Like
cool.
the over adoption, I took it the exact opposite way, where
Yeah.
sometimes you're just doing the activities for the sake of activities, which also I see happen. Like, okay, we're going to do
Oh,
adoptions.
we do. All
Yeah,
those balloons and the
exactly.
chocolates and the people in the bee
Right.
suits. Oh my word, I'll have a heart attack.
Launches, then relaunches, then grand launches. Like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to do? Like,
Yeah.
um,
Got it.
okay, let me throw something at you over here. You mentioned
Hmm.
at one point that end users don't log calls for days sometimes, and they're just unproductive for days, and then they
Mm.
come say, I've not used or done my job for days. That
Yeah.
is, I mean, if an employer heard that, like they'd be horrified, like, wow, why
Yeah.
aren't we catching this frustration right
Yes.
there when it's happening? So why do you think users are doing that?
I know exactly why. I think I know. I've got to be careful of saying I know why. I suspect I know it's because of this, Asif. So remember when you logged the call with me and you said that your Excel has been deleted, right? And as help desk, I said to you, don't worry, Asif, I know what you did wrong. Let's fix it. Remember that was my initial reaction. So
Mm-hmm.
you know what that does? It makes you feel inadequate. It makes you feel stupid because Trace is very clever with IT and you're not. And you've obviously
Mm-hmm.
done something stupid. And now you actually feel sick to your stomach because you don't know what it is that you've done wrong. Have you clicked in the wrong place? Did you do the wrong thing? Did you open the wrong program? Which means that sometimes causes people to take some time before they log a call. Okay, is that fear we have of looking like failures or looking inadequate at work. We also have a lot of very abrasive people in IT support that
True.
doesn't always deal with how
Unfortunate.
calls.
Yeah.
It's sad, but you know what? Those people would be brilliant at something else, like building power apps and flows. You understand? So I'm not saying allocate the people to the right places, but I can promise you that the person that takes calls is more of a therapist than anything else.
I
This is
completely
someone
agree.
reaching out. This is someone reaching out and saying, Trace, I got a problem. And the way that you react to them affects how fast they reach out next time. The other thing as well that users really struggle with, and remember, if we help them help themselves, that'll get better, is they don't always know how to articulate the problem they have. So they feel stupid. They don't quite know how to express it in words because they don't understand what it is that's
Yeah.
happened. And if we change the way we do IT support and we say, hey, I see if this is actually what happened, sweets, but like, don't want you to worry about it. This is exactly what happened. You most probably did one of these, so it's possible. Because then you kind of understand what went wrong as well.
Yeah. You're empathizing with
But
them. You're not
yeah, but they don't
judging
always
them.
have that.
Yeah. You're not being judgmental. You're empathizing. You're understanding,
Yeah,
and then in a way that you provide help, like you mentioned right now, it feels good to the user, and they will want to do it again. Now, having said that,
absolutely.
would you want people to be reaching out to the IT or to support desk for every small thing. Uh, Probably not for every small
No.
thing, right? That's where you brought in the in-app help, which I
Yeah,
completely agree with
absolutely.
the context-sensitive help, the in-app help, where you're right there and you get help as you
Mm,
need it. So that's a tier 1 support. And then you got tier 2 support
absolutely.
available to you as well when you need it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you have to, and that's what I kept on saying, is we have to just go back and fix something that's been fundamentally wrong, Asif. So let's say everyone in the company, our company's got 5,000 users. Let's say that for the next year, we change the approach how we deal with calls that comes in. I can promise you that the calls will get less and less and less and less because people will start helping themselves. If they know they can search for everything in the Windows button, they're going to stop phoning you for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If they phone and say, where do I get videos on Microsoft Excel help? I'll say, go and look in Excel, there's the help tab. They're going to tell someone else again as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of just pointing them in the right direction because they're so used to not looking. You know, we kind of have to just steer them in the right direction and then they can start helping themselves. And I think that's possible.
I agree. They have to be motivated also, of course. They have to feel
Absolutely.
there's something in it for them, and they feel that satisfaction that I helped myself or I helped my colleague, and I felt good about it. So then they're going to do it again.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah.
feeling, you know, you're so right about being a therapist instead of just a technologist, basically. We
Mm.
have to look at that as being a therapist, as being a psychologist, and that's where
It is.
empathy and everything else comes from. You know,
Yep.
I understand and I appreciate, and those words I think technologists unfortunately don't use as much as they should, because that
Mm.
is the secret sauce of getting in somebody's mind and getting in their heart and truly
I
having them
fully
understand
agree.
that
I fully agree. I
yeah.
think that's the biggest thing that's lacking is that if we can just become human again and more empathetic and
So
just be nicer to people.
yeah, I come from a developer background myself, by the way. I used to be a very hardcore developer back in the day, and then I was an
Yeah.
administrator, and I did training for developers, administrators, power users, and now I'm very focused on end users, just like yourself. And I
Yeah.
agree that the paradigm and the audience is so different, and you have to understand your audience. And before you say, "Oh, well, just do this," or "Here's what you did wrong," those
Absolutely.
words could have an impact that you don't want. People will just
That's true.
get turned off completely. So
That's
true.
true.
I love the presentation. Thanks very much for doing it.
You are
Good, quite
so
a,
very welcome.
yeah. I'm sure everybody online is also enjoying it as well. If you have any questions, guys, feel free to reach out. Tracy, I want to thank you once again for being with us, all the way from South Africa.
Anytime.
This was a great experience. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been great on my side as well. Thank you so much, Asif.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Until next time, take care.